If you're not familiar with Nintendo baseball games, this probably doesn't look like much. The graphics are not spectacular, and the gameplay is probably not the best on the platform. But this is actually one of the most popular NES baseball games out there, so let's look at why. Now, first of all, this is technically a softball game, not a baseball game. But seriously, when you play it, you'll recognize that it's really a baseball game. The only difference is in how the players pitch. Now, when I was a kid, I had actually never heard of this game, believe it or not. It wasn't all that well known. Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball was released in North America sometime in July 1990. Aside from this brief mention in a list, it received basically no attention from Nintendo Power. Now, it's true that Nintendo Power only had so many pages and it had some absolutely massive games to cover, but it seems to me that 2 pages of Dusty Diamond tips would have been much better than 2 pages of NES play-action football. GamePro was at least kind enough to give us a short review, and it was a positive review overall, though the end did mention the ridiculousness of some of the players. So the thing about Dusty Diamond is that it largely spread by word of mouth. I haven't seen any old advertisements for the game. I'm sure they exist somewhere, and I honestly didn't know anything about it until somebody mentioned it on Baseball Think Factory back in the early 2000s. And you know, this is also a rare cartridge. Prices like this might seem high, but don't be mistaken. As the years have gone by and this game's legend has grown, it's become only more sought after. And the truth is that there are not a ton of copies of this game out there. Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball has the rare combination of extremely good gameplay and relatively low sales. So in terms of scarcity, it's not a crazy rare NES game like Pro Sport Hockey. It's only about as rare as something like Bo Jackson's Baseball. But the thing is that people these days actually want to play Dusty Diamond. Let's see why. Well, to start off with, you've got the fact that there are no set rosters. Almost every single NES baseball game just has you choose a team and go. In Dusty Diamond, however, you've got to pick 10 players from a group of 60. In the US version, they've all got these nicknames. It's like you're picking kids at the Sandlot. In the Japanese version, most of them are animals, and there are some really crazy celebrities. Mike Tyson is in the Japanese version, for example. The fastest player is named Carl Lewis, and this guy is named Heavy Metal. Now, obviously, they had to change a lot of the names and references for the US version. And unfortunately, they also took away most of the animals. However, they did keep the devil, which is a very nice touch. The thing is, though, that the players you choose in the game matter more than in any other NES baseball game, and arguably more than in any other baseball game anywhere. In fact, I don't think that there is any baseball or softball game out there that's quite like this one. If you choose the wrong players, or if you choose the right players and have them in the wrong position, you're really going to be in trouble. When you're fielding, pushing B causes the players to do things. Some of them dive. Some of them jump. And then you've got this guy who jumps way up in the air and just floats around. Seriously, I've never been able to figure out how to get him down. And he can't catch fly balls when he's in the air either. He's useless. Now, if that weren't bad enough, you've also got these crazy obstacles on the field. That's right, you've got to watch out for obstacles while you play. You can choose from one of 5 different fields. You've got the Sandlot, which looks like a sandlot. There are all sorts of rocks and things that get in your way. There's the Park, which looks nicer. Things like the pond over here are out of your way, which is kind of nice. There's the cliff stage, which is interesting. There's rocky terrain on the cliff, and fielding can be difficult. And any balls that roll into the water are automatic ground rule doubles. There's the schoolyard, which is even more fun. If you hit a home run that breaks a window, you're called out. And then there's the island, which is relatively boring. Now, this game came out at a time when sticking different ballparks in baseball games was a big fad. Let me explain. Okay, Dusty Diamond was called Softball Tengoku, or Softball Heaven, when it came out in October 1989 in Japan. It was one of dozens of baseball games to come out right around this time. Now, a year earlier, one of the selling points of Famista 88 was the fact that it included 4 stadiums. This was actually one more than Pro Yaku World Stadium in the arcade, which also came out in 1988. Now, for the most part, the stadiums in the later Famista games don't really impact gameplay all that much. Though sometimes you do see strange things happen, like the infield dirt slow the ball down to a ridiculous extent. In Softball Tengoku, however, the stadium has an enormous impact on gameplay. Every stadium has this home run line, which means that you can easily rob home runs. Well, except for the island, that is, there's a fence there. And of course, you can't jump over the fence on the cliff stage. Places like the Sandlot have a ton of obstacles as well, so you have to be careful when you go back there. Seriously though, the stadiums alone make this game worth playing. No matter how many times you play, it's a different experience every single game. And there are other advantages that Dusty Diamond has over other baseball games, stuff that you might not know about. You've only got 10 players on your roster. However, when you want to make a pitching change, you can just swap positions. Every player has pitching ability, though some are obviously better than others. Some throw pitches that are almost unhittable just because of their animations. Others basically lob the ball over the plate. Pitchers tire quickly, just like all the other Nintendo baseball games. I'm not sure though what the formula is for this one. But you've technically got more pitchers than in other games since you can just swap players around. And it's really cool to see how different each player's personality is. The best part though is that there are only 7 innings. The computer swings at almost every pitch too, so the games go by quickly. And when your pitcher is tired, every pitch will be over the plate anyway. I know this might sound strange, but it's really nice to be able to play a complete game in about 10 minutes. It's certainly a lot better than playing bases loaded for a half hour because of the batter walk-up scenes. Now, I already mentioned that the players themselves are different between the US and Japanese versions. There are some other differences in gameplay as well that you should know about. For one thing, the ground seems bouncier in the US version. That might just be me, but fielding in the Japanese version feels easier overall. Now, the other big thing is that the American version asks if you want to play fast pitch or slow pitch. There's no choice in the Japanese version. If you push up and B when you pitch in the Japanese version, you'll throw one of those ridiculous slow balls. Now, you can alter the speed of the pitch even in the fast pitch version of the US game. The difference is kind of subtle. But the Japanese version is simply more fun with all the different speeds. Plus, the animals really do add something to the game. When you hit a home run in the US version, you get a really boring screen after you reach the plate. In the Japanese version, the manager gives you flowers and the entire team comes out to greet you. Oh, yeah, and then there's the Amazon team at the end. I forgot to mention them. So the way this works is that all the players are divided up between the 5 parks into 5 different teams. Once you've won a game at every park, you play the Amazon team. This is an all-girls team that make lovely ladies on baseball stars look like a joke. These girls pitch extremely fast and never get tired. They basically play a perfect game. And their park is a normal stadium, which means there aren't any obstacles or tricks to it. Now, I have managed to score some runs against this team, but I still haven't managed to beat them. The jump in difficulty here is pretty extreme. I think that the key is to make sure that you've got the right players for each position beforehand, but even doing that is really hard. When you choose players, the computer chooses at the same time. If you're quick and you know where everybody is, you can get the team that you want. But I haven't played this game enough to know where everybody is. Now you can find people online who have shared their ideal lineups, but these are all for the US version of the game. I'm not aware of any good guides for beating the Japanese version. The manual is okay, but it really only offers generic information, and the US manual is also pretty bad. Now, I did find a website with stats for every player, though I had to search around for a little while. So check out dustystats.com. The information on this site comes from data that somebody got from the ROM through a hex editor about 15 years ago. So if you sort by something like pitching ability, you'll see that some of these guys are actually really good. And notice that some of them have certain characteristics, like getting a hitting boost late in the game or at night, as it says here. You can also see the players that are the best at fielding, and the players best at slugging. There's no surprise that the Devil is number 1. And you can also sort by total score, though you'll notice that these lists include a lot of different players. So the truth is that every player in this game has strengths and weaknesses. The best way to find the right balance is to just play the game a ton. Now, even though this game is a ton of fun to play, there are still some things that just drive me nuts. I swear there's something wrong with the hit detection when I'm batting. Sometimes the ball seems to slow down before it crosses the plate. Other times it goes by so fast that I simply don't have a chance. Fielding in this game is also a nightmare, even with the special abilities. It's one of those games where your own players will intercept the throw if they're standing in the way, which can lead to some real problems. And in the NES version, there are slowdowns when there are too many sprites on the screen. I think part of the problem is the fact that every single character has their own individual sprite. However, if it weren't for all the wacky rules and the crazy things you could do, this would be a pretty mediocre baseball game. And that's exactly what one of the reviewers over at Biweekly Famitsu had to say about it. Another reviewer thought the game simply wasn't creative enough, which is hilarious. The highest score the game got in that magazine was a 7, which is a little bit more like it, but notice again that it's not a 10. I mean, it's really not a perfect game, but it's still a ton of fun. It's a game that you won't want to turn off, and it's probably the most fun 2-player 8-bit baseball game anywhere, but it's still got its problems. Personally, I wish that it had some of the team creation and player upgrade stuff from Baseball Stars. It would have also been nice to see the fielding control from Bad News Baseball. And even though that game does have its own flaws, the original RBI Baseball feels a lot more polished overall. Well, I guess we won't ever get the perfect baseball game, but Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball is still a really good game even after all these years and despite its problems. In fact, doing this review makes me want to go back and play it again.